Hi, I'm Wes Allen with DM Tales, and today I'm reviewing Grimwood City for EZD6. Let's roll it. I met Grimwood City's author, David Ward, through a Discord server we both frequent, and since then he's become a very good friend of mine. We hung out last year at PAX Unplugged, and he was kind enough to come down to run some games at EcclesiaCon back in April, and even stayed in my house as he was doing so. So I really enjoy knowing Dave and seeing what he's doing, so this is a pleasure for me to actually review. I was also fortunate enough to play an adventure in Grimwood City using Dave's EZD6 rules at PAX Unplugged last year, and after that game, I knew it would be a book I'd be reviewing on this channel. I purchased it as soon as it launched a couple months ago and have been trying to work through my review queue so I could read it. And now its time has come. So let's get to the review. Grimwood City is a landscape filled with various fantasy creatures and regular humans, which are called ironbound by the magical folk since they can't wield magic. The society is intermingled, but most of the humans have no idea that this is the case. So while the ordinary citizens of Grimwood City have passed on stories and legends about the city's founding, they don't perceive magic the way that magical beings do. Random explosions to them are just the result of gas leaks, and savage attacks, well, they're just chalked up to rabid animals. The city itself was settled by folks from a faraway continent, and the conflict which happened between the local monsters and the settlers is one that's all too common in real-world history. In Grimwood City's case, however, the magical creatures ended up creating a sanctuary under the human settlement. These Halls of the Feral Ones, as they are now known, were created by a now-vanished civilization, and their presence have been forgotten by the ironbound inhabitants of Grimwood City. Magical creatures who are able to hide in plain sight of humans, though, they no longer inhabit those ancient halls, and that leaves only the most dangerous magical entities dwelling below. The city itself is split into several districts, several of which are dominated by a particular magical heritage, such as gnomes in Littleton and werewolves in Wolfwalder. Enough information is given about each district to make them stand out from each other, but in a way which allows the GM to build their own ideas into the setting. I'm calling it the right amount of terse. There are also a number of different factions in the city, including magical societies, werewolf packs, criminal enterprises, and even a religious organization. These each help make the city feel lived in and are a perfect setup for adventure hooks or NPC contacts. Grimwood City feels well developed and old, which gives it both a grounded and gothic feel. It is a fun setup. There are 11 different species a player may choose from for their character in this game. Divine Archlings, which are kind of angelic figures, coexist with dwarves, elves, fae, gnomes, goblins, ironbound, non-gifted humans, unseen, gifted humans, were-creatures, and 2 types of vampires. None of these playable species is predisposed to evil, but they do provide some interesting avenues for role-playing. Each gains a specific ability for their species, as well as a bane to resist certain in-game situations. It's a good mix of concepts which can generate some interesting party dynamics. Like EZD6, Grimwood City has no classes. Instead, there are hero paths which offer a decent range of playstyles. Players can take up the mantle of a driven monster hunter, or perhaps become the agent of a local religion and battle demonic forces. If a player wants to roleplay a character discovering the magical world woven into the fabric of Grimwood City, they can play a paranormal researcher who stumbled upon something real, or a hacker who uncovered some secret files linked to one of the city's magical factions. Criminal characters might have contacts in the literal underbelly of the city, while soldiers might be jaded police officers who have seen too much. It's a nice range of options, and every hero path has a boon upon which it can lean, as well as a special ability they can use inside the game. David Ward did a great job setting up these different paths, and they are a lot of fun to play. The core of this game is basic EZD6, and DM Scotty's open EZD6 two-page synopsis, which explains the basic mechanics for this system, is included at the end of Grimwood City. It's a nice addition, which means players don't also have to pick up the core EZD6 rules to play. And if you'd like an overview of EZD6's mechanics, I invite you to check out my The Roles of Play video on the DM Tales YouTube channel, which I'll put a link to somewhere up there and in the description below. But here's the thing, Grimwood City, it adds its own flair. 9 new inclinations lend themselves well to the urban fantasy setting. Computer literacy fits nicely with that modern backdrop, and inclinations like hatred of the holy or ghostly sight offer both mechanical benefits and excellent role-playing hooks. Given the bizarre nature of the urban fantasy setting, Grimwood City also includes the same psychological trauma system utilized in another open EZD6 book, Assignment Danger. This system, created by Dr. Bruce Ballin, adds mental strikes to the standard EZD6 character sheet. In order to avoid taking a mental strike when confronted by something that is psychologically traumatizing, players have to make a mental resistance check. The number of dice rolled by the rabble-rouser, from 1 to 4, is determined by consulting a chart on page 64 of Grimwood City. The highest number rolled becomes the target the player must beat, and most characters are going to have a single mental resistance die to roll for that check. Karma may be spent on a mental resistance roll to get to a success, but as with all EZD6 checks, karma cannot be added to a 1. Players can, however, use a hero die in order to not have to deal with a 1 result. So it's a pretty cool balance. If a character develops a mental strike and still has more than 1 remaining, they will receive a bane on all rolls until the end of the current scene, so they are not long-lasting. If a character arrives at a point when they have a single mental strike remaining, the bane will remain in place until the mental strike is healed, and they will develop a trauma reaction from the table found on page 66 in the book. If at any point a character loses all their mental strikes, they gain a double bane on all checks until all mental strikes are restored, and they will also develop 2 trauma responses. Recovering mental strikes requires time, rest, and therapy, and sometimes the trauma may be so great the character's maximum mental strikes are reduced to reflect how they've been changed through their experience. While the Circles of Sorcery from the EZD6 core rulebook should be compatible with Grimwood City, the book includes 5 magical societies which better fit the setting. Alchemist and Demonologist fit right into the urban fantasy setting, but so too does a technomancer's integration of magic with modern technology. A particularly useful magical society is the empath, which can remove trauma from party members by spending karma. They are useful to have around. Now, some schools, like the aforementioned empath, do feel a bit more restricted than the open nature of magic in base EZD6. So a bit of advice on how to make these schools work within the parent system's magical framework might have been helpful. Is an empath, for example, able to use their understanding of others to trigger in-game effects, or are they just trauma sponges? That's something that I would have liked to see included. Hacking has also been added to the game, and like magic or miracles from core EZD6, it is its own minigame. The rabble-rouser rolls 3d6 to determine the numbers needed to access a computer system. The system's security level determines how many times a hacker is allowed to roll their hacking skill in order to match those numbers which the rabble-rouser generated. A low security system grants 6 attempts, while a high security system only allows 3 rolls. Hacking attempts are tiered, and matching numbers don't have to be acquired in order. No matches means no access has been granted to that system, and the security system might be now aware of the attack. 1 match gives the hacker service level control of the system, perhaps allowing the hacker to see a user's search history. 2 matches grant partial control, allowing the character to send maybe an internal email or view a security camera feed. 3 matches grant the character total control of the system, and everything automated becomes under their control. It is a nice system, and it's very fast at the table. It fits very well into EZD6, and I like it a lot. The new material in the book is further fleshed out with several pages of new equipment, as well as scrolls which fit the nature of the setting. The final chapters in the book deal with NPCs and other denizens of the city. These are a terrific addition to Grimwood City and introduce the world to such memorable creatures as the Coffee Goblin, a goblin group whose entire culture revolves around the addictive substance they love to imbibe. Coffee goblins are going to have to appear in my EZD6 fantasy world at some point because they are amazing and I want them everywhere now. Grimwood City's layout is quite attractive. Heading fonts are centered on the page and utilize a distressed sans serif font. The three heading levels, the top of which are chapter titles, are also differentiated by a different color underline in addition to a change in size. It is a nice visual cue and one I'd like to see more folks utilizing in their books. The body font is a simple serif font, and paragraphs have a nice sized space between them. Lists utilize the same font, but the indents would benefit from some tweaking in order to set them apart from the body text some more. When a bullet text wraps to a second line, for example, it wraps under the bullet instead of being indented. It makes them feel a tad cluttered. Tables utilize a sans serif font and an attractive alternating row color. They also, however, incorporate a heavy border between the cells, which feels a tad unnecessary as the tables are organized well, and it actually makes them feel more cluttered than they actually are. Each spread has a multi-layered skyline in the footer, which is a great look. The page number on the left is set inside a moon, while the same is set inside a sun on the right pages. It is overall a really beautiful look. The left and right page borders depict glyphs of unknown origin, making the book itself feel like some arcane relic from the game world. And the header contains a file folder cutout, which bears the current chapter title on both left and right pages. It is a slick look overall, and even with my minor critiques of the bullet list and table borders, it is an attractive read. The book itself, however, could have used another pass or two for proofreading, both for writing style and typos. Now, look, I am Captain Typo, and I am a terrible proofreader, so any critique I have of typos is really just me staring at a mirror. But there's quite a number in the book, and I'd like to see it get another pass so the files can be updated for folks. There's also several sections where the writing doesn't quite land the point being made, and a good editing pass or two would help clean it up just a bit to make the book even better than it already is. So what do I think? Well, to be honest, I'm a bit biased because Dave's a good friend of mine and I want him to succeed as a game designer. But this is a cool setting for EZD6, and if you want to do modern urban fantasy using that system, this is pretty much the only book that's tackling the genre. So if you enjoy urban fantasy and running EZD6, this is a book worth checking out. It could use another editing pass or two, but it is a lot of fun. You can pick up the 108-page Grimwood City for EZD6 from DriveThruRPG. A PDF runs $12.50, and print copies range from $28.06 for a softcover to $32.61 for a premium hardcover book. These are print-on-demand books, and they are printed on non-glossy paper. Flat paper, folks. It's just better. And you also need to check out Dave's upcoming IRONBOUND, which uses his own game system for the same setting of Grimwood City, and I love it just as much as I love this setting. That book will be hitting BACKERKIT in September, and I can't wait. I'll put a link to it in the description below. I have begun reading Dark Places and Demogorgons for Old School Essentials, and that'll be the next review to go up on my channel. Once I'm finished reading that, I'll begin going through Chaosium's Pendragon, and I'm really excited for that. It's my first Chaosium book that I'm ever going to read, so I'm really excited. I also couldn't help myself, and I let the Monty Cook Games superhero white book, Claim the Sky, creep to the top of my reading queue, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through that, so expect that review up sooner rather than later. I also picked up the Superpowers Companion for Savage Worlds, and that book is calling to me. So at some point, I may just have to do a whole superhero month and review the 4 superhero products I own. We'll see how that works out. Next week, however, before I get to my next review, I'm going to talk about the different TTRPG publishers whose books I've read and what I appreciate about them. I'm really looking forward to that. So until we see each other again, folks, happy playing, everyone.